Hey guys, it's Laila Khan. I'll be doing the anterior muscles of the neck. The mnemonic is some lovely ladies open the sweet shop. Before we move on, I'm going to do the platysma. I'm going to mention the platysma is the one on the top. So it comes from the deep fascia of the thorax and inserts into the mandible, and it is innervated by the cervical branch of the facial nerve, so number 7. Okay, now we can move on to our mnemonic. Under the platysma, all these muscles are located. So S stands for the scalene muscles. So we've got 3 types. We've got the medial, the anterior, and the posterior. It's the middle one. L is for longus, colli, longus, capitis muscle. You've got the Mylohyoid, Thyrohyoid, Sternothyroid, and Sternocleidomastoid muscles. I'm going to separate these from the rest because the hyoid bone separates the muscles, anterior muscles of the neck, into 2 compartments. You've got the suprahyoid muscles and the infrahyoid muscles, and these are the infrahyoid muscles. Okay. So I'm going to give you the origin, the insertion, and the innervation. So the scalenus medius originates from the transverse processes of C2 to C7 and inserts into the first rib. The anterior starts from the transverse processes of C3 to 6 and inserts into the scalene tubercle of the first rib. And the posterior scalene starts from the transverse processes of C5 to 7, ends into the second rib. So that these 2 are innervated by the ventral rami of the cervical nerves, and posterior is by the anterior, which is the same, rami of the cervical nerves. Then we have the longus colli, which originates from the transverse processes of C5 to T3 and inserts into the anterior arch of the atlas, so C1. It is innervated by the spinal nerves of C2 to C6. Spinal nerves. The longus capitis originates from C3 to C6 transverse processes and inserts into the occipital bone of the skull. It's innervated by the spinal nerves of C1, 2, 3, or 4. Next, we move on to the infrahyoid muscles. So, omohyoid originates from the superior border of the scapula and inserts into the body of the hyoid. It's innervated by the ansa cervicalis. The thyrohyoid goes from the thyroid, because thyrohyoid goes from the thyroid cartilage of the larynx and inserts into the hyoid bone again, and it's innervated by C1 via the hypoglossal nerve, so number 12. The sternothyroid goes from the manubrium because sterno, and inserts into the lamina of the thyroid cartilage because it goes sternothyroid, so thyroid cartilage. It is end to end with the sternohyoid, with a thyrohyoid, and it's innervated by the anterior rami of C1 to C3 through the ansa cervicalis. I'm going to write AC over here. The sternohyoid originates from the sternoclavicular joint and the manubrium, and inserts into the body of the hyoid. So I'm going to write the hyoid, and it's innervated by the ansa cervicalis, so AC. Muscles of the neck. We've got the mnemonic M stands for mylohyoid muscle, G is for geniohyoid, and D is the digastric, which has got anterior and a posterior belly. So, the stylohyoid, the good thing is that all of the muscles, the suprahyoid muscles, they all insert into the body of the hyoid. So all of them insert into the body of the hyoid. So that's one. Then the stylohyoid originates from the temporal styloid process, and it's innervated by the facial nerve. So number 7. The mylohyoid originates from the mylohyoid line and inserts obviously into the hyoid. It's innervated by V3, which, if you don't know, is the mandibular nerve from the trigeminal nerve number 5, cranial nerve number 5. It's mandibular nerve. The geniohyoid originates from the inferior mental spine, which is the chin, and inserts into the body of the hyoid. It's innervated by the spinal nerve of C1. And the digastric has an anterior and a posterior belly. So the posterior belly is from the mastoid notch to the body of the hyoid, but the anterior belly is from the digastric fossa into the mastoid process. The posterior belly is innervated by the facial nerve, and the anterior belly is innervated by V3, which is the mandibular nerve. That is it for the anterior muscles of the neck. If you like the video, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos. Thank you.